Thank you so much for all of you, our lovely listeners and viewers who sent us loads and loads of questions, and please do keep them coming. Richard and I love to read them. So, first up, thanks very much, Marinella, and it's to you, Richard. Since you accidentally, Richard, walked into Prince William's box at Royal Ascot, I think you told us that a couple of episodes ago.
It was an accident.
Was it?
Well,
you're like, hold on, Royal box, hello. Since you accidentally walked into Prince William's royal box, what is the most surprising or hidden protocol you've encountered that the public wouldn't expect?
Oh, well, no, there's a good vicar one here, actually. And it's if a member of the royal family or a representative of the royal family attends a funeral, that person takes precedence over the principal mourner. So
really?
when I do a few times, we're doing a memorial service, somebody in the royal representative or a member of the royal family would come. So the grieving wife would come, or the grieving husband, and you would escort them not to the normal place of priority, but to the opposite one at the front. And then you would go back and await the arrival of the royal car, and then greet the royal, and then escort them to the front, and then the funeral would get underway, and reverse order, the royal rep would be first out. Before the wife, husband, family of the deceased.
Often for funerals, important or otherwise, but for either, funerals of friends of the royals or former staff or et cetera, the royals often send an equerry or a private secretary, a member of their household, royal rep. Does the royal rep still get the same preferential treatment as if the King or Prince William would?
Yeah, it's as if you treat them as you would treat the royal. And it's kind of odd, really, because sometimes you'll get, the kind of deputy sheriff of Manchester turn up, who's being the royal rep that day, and have to sort of make more of a fuss of that person than you would of someone who's there to mourn their lost spouse, But it's just protocol. And then we made a terrible mistake once. We had the Duchess of Gloucester come to a funeral, and I was on duty that day, and I got in my head that it was Princess Markle of Kent who was coming.
Easy mistake to make.
And so when the Duchess of Gloucester turned up, I thought it was a lady in waiting, and I was sort of polite but not bowy. And then I kind of was looking for the person to bow to, and it was her, but she was perfectly nice about it. But it seems weird, really, but there are people for whom the protocol is really important. And so if you're a vicar of the Church of England, by law established, it's your obligation to observe that stuff.
Well, I guess protocol is there. I mean, there's a lot of guff written about protocol. Sometimes I think it's slightly lazy shorthand, particularly on kind of clickbait website media. Protocol this, protocol that. And it's particularly used, in my opinion, as a stick with which to beat female members of the royal family.
Yeah.
Particularly younger women who marry in, they're not proper royals because they weren't brought up, and so they married in. And I remember, when Catherine first was going out with William and then married, and then Meghan, going out with Harry and then married to Harry, a lot of rubbish got written about protocol. For instance, it's protocol that there was all that row about Princess Charlotte and the bridesmaid's dress over at Meghan and Harry's wedding. What actually was the problem was that Catherine felt the dress wasn't the right length, and she's very, very particular about her children's clothes. When the first iteration story came out, it was that Catherine wanted Charlotte to wear tights because that was protocol, and Meghan didn't want the bridesmaids to wear tights. As far as I'm concerned, there is no protocol about whether bridesmaids have to wear tights or no tights at a royal wedding. Yeah. But and a lot of stuff, is just, Meghan was chastised for wearing black nail varnish. I mean, as if there is a list in a royal protocol book somewhere of colours that you are allowed and you aren't allowed. It's just ridiculous. I remember when I was covering engagement with the Duchess of Sussex, Meghan Markle as was, we were at the Royal Academy, and I think they just got married, she and Harry, and it was 2018, and she got out of a car and she shut the car door.
She shut her own car door.
Shut the front door, as the kids like to say. So she shut her own car door. Now, I was filming this and I put it up on Twitter, and I was taking a bit of a joke out of the whole sort of protocol warriors. And I said, oh, look, how refreshing, a princess who shuts her own car door. Now, this was a prime example of how kind of protocol could be weaponised, because Actually, it's nothing to do with protocol, shutting a car door. It's all about security. The PPOs, the police protection officers, are the ones who shut the door after the principal has left the vehicle. And the reason they shut the door is they do it once they are certain that the principal is safe and they don't need to get back into the vehicle and out with a quick exit. So, it was neither here nor there that she shut the door.
There is something a bit. I remember somebody I know, her grandmother or great-grandmother was a member of it, was a Russian aristocrat who had to flee St. Petersburg in the revolution in 1917 and came to England and ended up in England. And when they got there, they had to learn how to open doors and windows because they'd lived in a palace with so many footmen
that they didn't know
that they literally didn't know how to do it. So there's something, isn't there, about the principal being not the person who would do something so vulgar as operate machinery, even if it is a car door or a window latch.
And do you think sometimes that the reporting of it can be a bit sexist? Why is it?
Totally,
it always the women who are chastised with not knowing or not doing it properly? You never see a critique of William not tying his own tie.
Well, it's delightfully informal, we would say then, wouldn't we? But if who does she think she is?
Who does she think she is? Shutting her own car door.
There is this weird kind of almost sort of kind of holiness thing, isn't there, about there's some people want it to be exalted and different from the rest of us and kind of wreathed in a special majestic glow. Some people want that.
And then some people want them shutting their own car doors.
Yeah, yes.
There are some actual examples of protocol. For instance, members of the royal family and indeed journalists and indeed members of staff always pack black clothes and a black tie, just in case there's a death when you're abroad.
Oh, because the Queen got caught with that one. Queen Elizabeth II got caught with that when her father died.
When she was in Kenya.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got a good one.
Go on.
When Diana, Princess of Wales, was pregnant with William, if ever she went riding or home or visited anywhere, the consultant gynecologist in the local hospital had to be on call.
Just in case.
Just in case.
Yeah. Well, of course, there used to be the protocol that when a royal baby was born, the Home Secretary had to be there.
I don't want Yvette Cooper looking at my
nether regions.
Emerging heir. Do you know what I mean?
I know. Well, it was obviously, there was a good reason for that, to prove that the new royal was obviously the sons and daughters of monarchs. But
Suella Braverman.
Oh, I mean, don't even. Thankfully, thankfully that protocol has now gone. Again, this is not protocol. This is more of a sensible thing. Royals tend not to eat shellfish. I remember when I was on tour with William and Kate in India, Princess Catherine to me, William and Princess Catherine, we did a story, one of us, with the Rat Pack did a story that they'd gone vegetarian because they didn't want to get, deli belly while they're in India. And they obviously, the press team were really, really worried that would offend the Indian or the Indian government, that they'd gone vegetarian. I mean, I personally didn't, I thought that was just quite sensible. More protocol later, and after the break, we will be doing a deep dive into Harry and William. What's the latest on the royal rift? The brother who stayed and the brother who strayed. But before that, a question. Who was the tallest and who was the shortest British royal? Back after this. Welcome back to the podcast that never complains, but always explains. And don't forget, you can catching up with the Royals every Thursday on Apple, on Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. You can watch us, if you so choose, on YouTube. And we're on 5 on Saturdays. Now, before the break, Richard.
Yes.
We were talking about heights. Shortest and tallest royals, what do you reckon?
I think the shortest one was Queen Victoria, because as I recall, she wasn't even 5 feet in her stockinged royal feet.
All the best people come in little packages.
But she was tiny, I think.
She was, you're absolutely right. So you're spot on. She was the shortest monarch at 4'10".
Blimey.
Who do you think the tallest?
Well, I would think it would be maybe George VI. Would be a recent one, you'd think, because people tend to be taller now than in the past, but I don't know.
King Edward the Fourth.
Fourth?
Yeah, King Edward the Fourth. I'm surprised too. Apparently he was the tallest at 6'4.5". Very important, that half inch.
But a giant.
I know.
How do they know? Do they measure? I suppose you could measure the thigh. I don't know. How would you know that he was that tall?
I mean, presumably the royal physician has to keep.
Or maybe there's a kind of doorway at Westminster Abbey with a notch in it. Eduardus.
Little black marker pen, only for the monarchs though. If you're the spare.
That'd be good if that was. That would be very good.
That'd be
so
very
Edward
good.
IV.
Edward IV. Yeah, there you go. I mean, I didn't know that either.
I've got another question for you. This comes from George. Hi, George.
Hi, George.
Your recent discussion about the royal reset for the Prince and Princess of Wales discussed how William has handled the brutal challenges of the past few years. So much of the conversation around William and Harry is saturated with the narrative from Spare, but there is a massive audience that wants to understand William's side of the story. Give the public what they really want, the story of the brother who stayed.
I love that, George. And I might have to nick that for one of my columns, the brother who stayed. Right, all joking aside, I mean, this is a really painful royal rift. And I guess the latest is that there's absolute no speaks between the brothers, which I find very sad.
It seems very sad to me. I mean, not even birthday cards, or are they utterly estranged?
I have been told that, I don't think it's happening anymore, but I have been told that, so I think the last time they spoke, we watched, it was September 2022. It was William's idea to invite Harry and Meghan to walk about outside Windsor Castle after the late Queen died, because of course they were in the UK because Harry had the Well Child Awards and some Invictus Game stuff that was happening in Germany. So it was William's idea to reach out. He knew it would play well for the cameras, and also as a mark of respect, his granny. But after that, September 22 was obviously before Harry's autobiography Spare came out. And that really, as I've been told, was the absolute nail in the coffin, because before then there'd been Oprah. So September 22, the death of the Queen, Harry and Meghan had done that interview with Oprah, but hadn't yet released their Netflix series, I think 6-part Harry and Meghan. And then quite soon after was Harry's autobiography Spare. And because of those two things, we know a lot of, as George has said, we know a lot of Harry's side of the story. But William has remained resolutely silent.
And will have to if he's going to do what he's designed for. I mean, this is an impossible relationship. Sibling relationships are always, it's my brother's birthday today, and I'm fortunate to have a very good relationship with him, but there's always dynamics in sibling relationships that are difficult. But I mean, you grow up together, you go through thick and thin, you experience the tragic death of your mother, and then all of a sudden the realization that one of you is going to be a world statesman and the other one is going to kind of, I don't know, maybe fly some helicopters a bit. It must be very tough. And I feel sympathy for both of them, really. I'm
told that Harry has tried to contact his brother and texted him, and there's just been no reply, no. And Catherine's not in contact with Harry or Meghan either. I think initially there were presents sent to children on both sides. Genuinely, I'm not sure if even that's happening anymore. I think because of, as William said himself, it was such a brutal year, 2023. The way that he dealt with both his father and his wife's very serious illness was that he just didn't have the mental headspace to deal with his brother either. So he just sort of cut it and him off. You know, it's funny you should say about the helicopters, Richard. It reminds me of a story that a very senior courtier once told me. They said, if you really want to know, if you really want to get to the heart of William and Harry, their personalities and their relationship, just look at the helicopters they pilot. Forgive me if I get this slightly wrong, but Harry, co-pilot, gunner on the Apache. Yeah. You go in hard, you go in strong, you go in low. Harry. Yeah. Very emotive, everything out there, headstrong. You go in, you save whomever, or you kill, as Harry said in Spare, you kill whomever, you get the hell out. William, big, lumbering, seeking, search and rescue helicopter. You're there for a mission. You're there to save lives. You're strategic. The weather's probably quite bad. You've got to keep an eye on the waves, on the weather, but ultimately you've got to be, where's your strategy? Where's your operation? You're in there. You're there. You've got to save the person and yourself. You know what I'm dreading now? Sarah Ferguson's going to see a kind of book in this, isn't she? About contrasting the Royal Prince helicopters. The Royal Prince helicopters. Harry the Apache. Harry the helicopters. But it goes to your point about, well, didn't it always have to be like that? William has to be strategic and thoughtful and how's this going to work, not just in terms of like me, but in terms of the institution, because I am the guardian of that institution. Harry, I would say, had so much more freedom than his brother. He could have gone and done anything and everything.
Do you know,
and now he's just selling his wife's chocolate on Instagram.
I know. And the other, of course, the danger in this is that as Harry and Meghan try to maintain the life to which they've grown accustomed, they're going to have to sort of monetize themselves. And what have they got to monetize? Well, it is exactly that kind of material. It's the sort of story, it's that personal stuff, it's the untold story that they're going to tell, isn't it? That makes it even more difficult to imagine a reconciliation.
And I think what William finds so hard and unforgivable, if we're being honest about it, is the fact that Harry has monetized the family's pain and intimate secrets. Now, on the one hand, Harry would say, I'm just telling my truth. I could have written a lot worse. And he did say that. I could have written two more books. But for William, you know, they both had to grow up, those two boys, and see people selling stories on their mum and their dad.
But I also, I'm trying to imagine what would be, from Harry's point of view, it must be difficult all of a sudden to be criticised for trying to kind of make your living to cover your huge expenses by someone who's just inherited all the revenues from the Duchy of Cornwall, right?
Exactly.
And you are always, inevitably, unless you are an heir or an heir to an heir, you are always dependent, aren't you, on the kind of largesse. You're always, in a way, standing around the table with your hand out. And that's, for some people, that would be very humiliating, I think.
And I don't think Prince Henry ever wanted to do that. But what I worry about slightly, Richard, is the future, because I think William is very strategic. I think he can be utterly ruthless when needed, which is a job requirement, I think, of the monarch. We've got King William V and Queen Catherine. You've got Harry and Meghan set up in a rival court in the US. But what happens if Harry is given his security back here in the UK, so he comes more often? And I'm assuming next year, Invictus Games in Birmingham, I'm assuming that William won't go. I'm assuming that William won't be invited. But then what happens when he's king and Harry's kind of becoming like a rival, setting up his own rival court here in the UK? I can't see from an institutional point of view how William can keep up this no speaks with his brother.
Yeah, seriously.
I think it could harm the institution. What do you think?
Well, I don't know. I think there's a lot to be said. It's very interesting. I notice it in the way when sort of people fall out. You see the same thing in the sort of what's been happening with the Beckhams lately, is that when you hear the aggrieved party talk, you know that they are filtering that through months, if not years, of expensive therapy. My view perhaps now is that maybe putting up and shutting up is better if you're going to preserve some possibility in the future of peaceful coexistence. Because you can't just kind of constantly reproach people and accuse people and seek that.
I spoke to people close to Harry, and I mean, you know, we only have to listen to what Harry said himself about his brother, that he's his beloved brother, but also his arch nemesis. I mean, people close to Harry are vitriolic about William and even Catherine.
Put it behind you, draw a line. Don't write another book if you can possibly help it. Freud talked about a thing called the narcissism of small difference, that the most intense rivalries are between people, not because they are not alike, but because they are alike. They have that very, very singular experience of having grown up royal princes. And that's what makes the relationship difficult, in fact, is they're so close rather than distant.
Well, there's a vignette of that, a prime example from Spare, where Harry talks about William getting more sausages. He has remembered this detail from childhood, that William used to get more sausages than him. I mean, who knows whether it's true or not?
Why would you give more sausages to William?
Because he was the heir.
So he gets more sausages?
So he gets more sausages.
So it's like princely sausage that...
Princely...
This is turning into another podcast.
Yeah, I know. I mean, but the fact that he has remembered that 35 years on.
I can remember having been in a pop band where you stand next to someone who gets all the glory.
Yeah.
It's not an easy place to stand. If you've got your wits about it, if you're smart, and if you take a long view, then fine, you just be grateful for the opportunity. But sometimes it's very difficult to stand in someone else's bright light and not feel burnt by it. Not feel that it takes something from you.
Were you jealous?
Oh, God, yes. Although you can't say so, can you? You can never admit...
Well, you can now.
Oh, of course you can now, yeah. But at the time, no, you have to...
It's your truth.
Face on and everything's all lovely, da-da-da. But yeah, no, I did, because it felt like it was light and air that could have been mine was being sucked up by somebody else. Not that that was the intention of the other person, but it just happened that way. no one's fault. It's just built in. And if you are the heir and if you are the spare, there's nothing you can do about that except try to find a way of living with it.
Yeah.
How would you cope?
Well, I'm really lucky. I'm really close. I've got one sibling. I'm really close with very different women. But we were brought up to be totally equal. And I wonder, I mean, Diana famously wanted to bring her boys up as totally equal. Of course, that was never going to be their destiny.
There comes a moment where somebody says, oh, by the way, you're going to be the king, and you're not.
You're not. Well, you're not.
Yeah.
Well, you might be if something happened to that one.
Well, that doesn't exactly give a sort of, doesn't really help so much, does it, in some ways?
I don't know. It must be
very tough.
Very tough.
I think it's heartbreaking because I just think, they shared that extraordinary experience, terrible experience of losing their mother. And they are estranged from each other, and that makes them estranged from their wider family in some ways. And you just think it must be, you pay such a heavy price for that stuff.
You do, you really do. And the other part to this, I think, is the wives. I mean, I remember when the whole thing in the press kind of kicked off about, the women hate each other. It wasn't. It was the boys who'd fallen out first and the wives. But I was told that William never really took to Meghan. Meghan did not take to William. And Catherine sort of fell in behind her husband, as you would.
But you remember when William and Catherine got together, and the whole sort of anecdotal story was that Harry was like a third part of there were a three-legged stool and Harry was the third leg. Da, da, da.
I think that
and
was
I thought, does any marriage work that way?
Well, it was a bit sort of the press guff, wasn't it? Like...
Or was it somewhere in that an effort to make Harry still feel that he had status and place?
And relevance.
Yeah.
Well, then I think the other problem is that, of course, William was very upset by what Harry said in, I think it was the Netflix Harry and Meghan, where he said that some people marry, that royal men. I know, Rich is pulling a face here, by the way, if you're listening on the podcast. He's pulling because he knows what I'm about to say. Royal men only marry women who are kind of suitable for the part. The implication being that William only married Catherine because she was some dumb broad who would sort of put up, shut up, and
lie back and think of England.
Lie back, yeah, exactly. Bring the heirs, and would be a suitable sort of consort, which was hugely rude.
Yeah.
And actually did a huge disservice to a woman who has a Master's of Art in art history from the University of St Andrews, got a number of A's in her A-levels, has got a cracking sense of humour and is very, very sharp.
And is making a very good job of a very tough gig.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. She's the saviour of the modern royal family, surely.
After the break, we'll be returning to the difficult question of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor and Sarah Ferguson with the latest on that. But we have a question for you to consider, first of all. Prince Harry holds a Guinness World Record. What is it? Answer coming up. Do you know what it is?
No, I don't.
Welcome back to Catching Up with the Royals, and you can keep up with us in all sorts of ways. You can, wherever you get your pods, YouTube, whatever it is, that's on a Thursday, and you can watch us on 5 on Saturday. Well, just connect with us however you want. We left you with a question. The question was, Prince Harry is the holder of a Guinness World Record, but for what? Do you know?
I didn't actually, tell me.
He holds the Guinness World Record for running 5 kilometres in full military uniform.
Oh, wow, that's going to be quite heavy.
I've seen that's quite a good record, isn't it?
Yeah. I've seen him run, actually. He raced William and Kate on a running track in East London. It was around the time, it must have been 2012, around the time of the Olympics. He was fast. He beat both of them.
He is fast, isn't he?
Oh, he's fast.
He's fast.
Please do email in to royals@spirit-studios.com and maybe you too could have your question read out. Should we do another one?
Yes, please.
So Oliver says, it's hard to keep up with all the Andrew royal drama over the past few months.
Tell me about it.
Tell me about it. But I want to know what's going on behind the scenes. Emily, you were in the UAE at the same time as Princess Eugenie. What are her and Beatrice saying about all the things their dad is accused of? And how do the lives of the royals change when a scandal unfolds? Oliver, thanks for asking. I think this is probably all quite unfair on Beatrice and Eugenie. In private, apparently they have been, well, choose your adjective, shocked, appalled, gasped, broken, devastated. I mean, they were very, very close to their parents. To see the fall of the House of York like this in real time, it's pretty catastrophic, isn't it?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, again, family relationships are so difficult, but when all of a sudden these revelations appear about what it must be like to read the accounts of what your father is alleged to have done, and your mother, I should say, of course, both Sarah Ferguson and Andrew Mountbatten Windsor deny these allegations. But it must be excoriating, and then to have to face them, and then imagine what those conversations are like. Or maybe you just feel you have to kind of support them in their determination to plead innocence. I don't know, it must be very difficult.
Well, I think publicly they are keeping a little bit of distance. Obviously, Beatrice was photographed with her father horse riding at Windsor. This was before the latest tranche of files, 3.5 million, were released from America's Department of Justice. Beatrice lives in the Cotswolds and usually spends most of her time in Portugal, where her husband Jack works, and they've got 2 young sons. As I understand it, neither woman wants to put up their mum, Sarah, because of the unwanted media attention. And I think it's very difficult, because I think that they have to keep their distance publicly, despite privately. And I've been told that they are still supporting their parents privately. They are still talking to their mother and father. But I mean, apparently Beatrice wasn't eating at one point. I mean, you know, things, it has affected both of them.
Of course it has.
I remember the British Museum had this, their first kind of gala. It was like an echo of the Met Gala in New York at the British Museum. And Beatrice and Eugenie were on the guest list, but then didn't appear. This was, I think, at the end of last year. Other charity fundraisers, you know, the circuit, Richard, the circuit of which I know you are part, people have stopped inviting them and don't...
Toxic.
Exactly. Their brand is toxic.
Well, the thing I wanted to ask you is, say you've just been in the UAE with Princess Eugenie. What's to stop somebody in the press corps shouting out, Princess Eugenie, is your dad, you know, what do you have to say about your parents? Does it happen?
No, well, she's not a working royal, so there aren't engagements that we go to or cover. She is a private, so she has her titles still. She and Beatrice still have their titles as princess, but they are private individuals. They work. Eugenie was in Qatar, in the capital Doha, at an art fair, the Basel Art Fair, in her...
It's her job, right?
It's her job. Yeah, she's a director at House and Worth Art Gallery. But her job, Richard, is to use her network of rich and powerful people to bring them to the art gallery. Reputation is all important. And your reputation is why she's frankly, and her title is frankly why she's been employed. I don't want to do Eugenie down. She's lovely. She's a really lovely girl, and she's very
and good
knowledgeable.
At her job,
very good at her job. And from the people that I know in the art world, they really rate her. So it's not just because that she's a royal princess, but the House of York is now toxic. And Beatrice's own company, she runs her own company. She is BY, Beatrice York, that's the name of her company. So, and again, it's about reputation, it's about advice that she's giving people. So if you're buying into her company, you're buying into her. So I think it's very, very problematic for them.
It's that awful sort of going out and facing the world, and, you know, there's one question in everyone's mind, and you're just constantly having to deal with the reality of that and trying to live some sort, you know, then also, of course, they have their own families, they have their own children, they have all that to take care of. How do you explain that grandpa is on the front of the papers again? I don't know. The stuff must be very difficult.
Well, and actually, I just think the stuff from their mum, I mean, it's just so grubby. All those emails for money, and then effectively saying to Jeffrey Epstein, well, in return, he's like, well, I want the girls, as in her daughters, I want the girls to act as unofficial tour guides for private tours of Buckingham Palace.
It's like renting out the children.
Renting out the children, absolutely. You know, they were, Epstein and Harvey Weinstein, apex predator, were invited to Beatrice's 18th birthday party. Think of all the lovely young 18-year-olds at that birthday party, and they invited those 2 men. What were Andrew and Sarah doing?
And then also, quite apart from all that, hard enough, but then the obligations that the children might feel for their parents. Because, I mean, how's their mother going to live? Where's she going to live? What's she going to live on? I know that stuff is unanswered, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, she's not a member of the royal family, and so there's no obligation for the king to make any provision for her. When there was in the kind of negotiation process last autumn, she wanted a house for herself, and Andrew asked for a house for her as well in the Windsor area. I mean, if I were the king, and Sarah wants to stay in the Windsor area, she has a lot of friends there. In fact, I met her florist once in Windsor. I mean, this is a sign of why.
Her florist driving a Rolls Royce.
Her florist was driving a Rolls Royce. No, her florist said that she was one of the best customers because literally she'd spend money like it was running out of fashion and on flowers. And
my God, that's probably Elton John's florist we're talking about as well, if it's Windsor, isn't
exactly,
it?
it's Elton John's florist as well. And so we know how much Elton...
She's the best customer.
She's the best customer.
Wow.
When, you've got Elton who's sort of, dripping in flowers. So she spends money like there's no tomorrow. She is very generous. There are always stories of people, being sent flowers or presents or cards or letters for birthdays or deaths or, great. She's very, very solicitous like that, Fergie. But also, you've got to rein it in, literally.
Well, I suppose, you can overspend, and as we know that she's managed to get other people to pay her debts, but that's probably not going to be the case going forward, I think.
I mean, she is the comeback queen, Fergie, but I think this is one scandal from which there is no comeback because I cannot see for her a return to public life. Her books have been pulped, her charities have all dropped her. Nobody is going to want to employ her as the face of their brand, which traditionally she has been able to make money from.
But so how's she going to pay the gas bill? How's she going to...
I don't know. She had that house in London that she sold, but she sold it for a similar amount of money that she bought it for. So, I guess they've always not been very good, from my mind, with money. I mean, that Swiss chalet in Verbier that they bought and heavily mortgaged and then sold for, couldn't actually sell it. Just always living beyond their means. But I feel very sorry for Beatrice and Eugenie. Sarah Ferguson and Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, of course, deny any wrongdoing. But we're going to return to the subject of the Duchess of York when we look at the lady.
Yeah.
But that is after the break. We've got a question. And don't forget, you can follow us on Instagram and Facebook, Catching Up with the Royals. And please do subscribe, Catching Up with the Royals on YouTube. Question for you, Richard.
Yes. I have a question.
Prince William broke tradition the day that he was born, doing what?
Handstands. No, I don't know.
Cartwheels. Who knows? Back after this. So, before the break, we asked you, what tradition did Prince William break on the very day that he was born? Richard.
Circumcision.
You mean he was circumcised or he wasn't circumcised? One of the two. The tradition that Prince William broke, he was the first future monarch to be born in a...
hospital.
Well done.
Normally born at home.
Exactly. The Lindo Wing, St Mary's Hospital in London, central London. All other former monarchs have been born at home, either in Clarence House or Buckingham Palace.
Imagine being a midwife called to Buckingham Palace to see the new... the likely future king or queen into the world.
I know.
It's
History.
a big deal, isn't it?
We've got another question. Time for a very quick question. A little bit of a reprimand, I think, actually. I know.
What have we done now?
So, Stella, well, I'm always happy to be chastised, Richard. You know me. Stella says, Emily and Richard, when you're talking about Charles and Camilla, why do you always say the king and queen? Camilla is not, in caps, the queen. She does not govern. She just happens to be married to the king. She is queen consort or just Queen Camilla. And the late queen stated that was her wish. Why are you not using her proper title?
Well, I mean, I would say, of course, I think technically you're absolutely right. And there is a distinction between a queen regnant and a queen consort, of course. But no one actually does that. And when people talk about the king and the queen, I think most people would understand that to be Camilla. So it might be one of those kind of forms of shorthand that's not entirely in keeping with the strictest of protocols, but I think most people would give it a pass.
Well, actually, Stella, it is protocol, the king and queen. That's it. That's their title. That's what Buckingham Palace call them. I get all royal engagements. I get advance notice. I get what's called op notes, operational notes. And whenever it says da-da-da-da-da, walkabout in Clitheroe, visit to Bradford, it says the king and queen will be visiting Clitheroe. The king and queen will be visiting Wiltshire, the king and queen. So that is the protocol, and that's what they're called. I think it's slightly complicated by the fact that, of course, when we talk about the queen, who do we think of?
The Queen.
The Queen, exactly. Her late Majesty, to give her a proper title, Her late Majesty Queen Elizabeth II.
Yeah. I mean, we got used to the Queen Mother, didn't we? So
did.
there were two queens knocking around.
And that
then.
was not her proper title, by the way.
No, they had to make it up, really. Or
Well, no, she was never.
She was Queen Elizabeth.
She was Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother.
Queen Elizabeth. We're not going to say that, are they?
No, I know. And we've been told off again, Richard.
Why
are we calling her Kate and not Princess Catherine?
J'accuse.
Okay,
you call her Kate.
I do call her Kate. I'm sorry if people don't like that. But what I will say is in 2011, just before they got married, I was in Belfast and I overheard Prince William calling her Kate. Now he does call her Catherine, but she was Kate at university.
Okay, so Kate is kosher.
Kate is kosher.
Catherine's also kosher.
Yes, and Princess Catherine is optimum.
Super kosher. Got it. So I've seen a trailer for The Lady. And as if you didn't think there'd been enough drama generated from the Yorks, the former Yorks, what's it all about?
Well, it is about the Duchess of York, as she was, Sarah Ferguson's dresser, called Jane Andrews. No relation to me, I hesitate to add.
Thank you for clearing that up.
I mean, it is one of those stories which is... facts are more crazy than the fiction. Jane Andrews was the Duchess of York's dresser. It was almost a kind of, I hate sort of rags to riches. It's such a lazy cliche, but some, you know.
But let's do it anyway. Rags to riches tale. She saw an advert for a lady's maid in the back of the Lady magazine, I think. Hang on. She was in Grimsby and reading The Lady.
Yeah, I know. I mean, The Lady now shut, I think,
really?
as a magazine, sadly.
Where am I to find a housekeeper now?
I know. So, Sarah advertised for a lady's maid. Jane answers the advert, goes down to Buckingham Palace, clinches the job. The two become very close, but I think that Jane had a bit
What does a lady's maid do?
trouble background. Well, anything the lady asked them to do.
Does it basically sort their clothes out?
Sort their clothes out, get them up in the morning.
Bring in their tray.
Well, actually, that would be a member of the housekeeping staff that would do that. So I think a lady's maid...
It's like a female valet?
Well, it's like a best mate. Yeah, it's a female valet.
Right.
It's a female valet. It's a best mate, basically. It's a best mate that you've paid for.
But they would be there with you first thing and there with you last thing?
Yes, absolutely. It's like, I think now they're called executive assistants.
But with underwear issue, we're doing more underwear than you.
But they can help you with your underwear.
Okay.
They can help you with your nail varnish. They can get you the latest brand of makeup.
And of course, get that peculiar intimacy that comes with being with somebody at the end of the day and at the beginning of the day. You get to know each other really well.
Absolutely. You become like their kind of confidant. And I think, look, we know that I'm told that Sarah Ferguson was and still is very emotional, heart on the sleeve kind of gal. And she and Jane were very close. But I think Jane had quite a troubled background and she had a number of troubled, I think, relationships with men and then ended up being tried for murder in 2001 for killing her then partner. And she was sentenced to a life sentence.
She wasn't she wasn't then part of the royal household or anything, was she?
No.
This was after that.
This was after. But I think, I seem to remember Fergie keeping in touch with her. I don't know whether she still is, but...
I would have thought in a role like that, in a job like that, you're in, you're out, aren't you?
Yeah, I think also once the police get involved.
God, an awful story. So this woman was convicted?
Yeah. Her defence was that it was an abusive relationship and she was under sort of coercive control.
So there were mitigating factors.
There were mitigating factors.
As far as she was concerned.
Yeah, she was in 2001. She was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, and the psychiatrist told ITV that Jane had been subject to coercive control in her relationship. But she killed Thomas Cressman after an argument with a cricket bat and stabbed him in the chest.
Oh my goodness!
I know.
So from rags to riches to Risley.
HMP Essex, wherever she was held. And now she's out. And I don't know, history doesn't, I'm sure some enterprising tabloid journalist has tried to track her down and find her, but history doesn't relate whether Sarah's still in touch. But,
I mean, I'm just thinking about the producers. I think we've got this great story. It connects to the Duke and Duchess of York. Well, great, nothing's going to beat that. Oh, Oh, there's more.
Oh, there's more. Well, interestingly enough, this drama, it was supposed to be shown last autumn, October, November, but then the Epstein stuff raised its head again and again.
Well, it's interesting if you see what reputational damage Sarah Ferguson has had to endure in the past year or two. You'd have to have a very, very, very careful scrutiny of how that character works in that drama now, wouldn't you? Because you wouldn't want to portray sympathetically a character who the audience didn't feel sympathetic towards, perhaps.
No.
I don't know. It's an interesting thing. I mean, Grimsby seems very distant from the royal circles. No disrespect to Grimsby, which I know and indeed like, but it's an extraordinary thing that can happen to people, isn't it? That they go and find themselves one minute working in Buckingham Palace or in Kensington Palace or in St James's Palace or wherever it might be, or Royal Lodge.
These wages aren't particularly high. I mean, I remember, Kate and William were advertising for a gardener for something like £23,000 per annum a year. 23 grand for a garden.
Would you get someone to live with that?
Not necessarily.
Right.
So I think that, if I remember rightly, that was for Anma Hall. So you might get, as you say, at Windsor, there's a lot of staff residences. There are staff residences at BP, Buckingham Palace. There's quite a lot of staff residences and flats at Kensington Palace. But these jobs are not particularly well paid. And some of them, like the private secretary or the comms secretary or the executive assistant, the dresser, the companion of honour, the lady in waiting, the valet, you are there 24/7 for the person that you serve. And it depends on your principal, how much demands they make of you. But I remember someone who loved working for Catherine and William, but they were on call all the time. And it's very difficult, I think, to have your own private life when you are constantly on call, which is why it tends to be younger people who perhaps maybe don't have kids, or a lot of gay men work. Interestingly, not so many gay women, but a lot of gay men work at the palace. Well, I know.
Yeah.
Why is
I know. Well, I know some gay male friends of mine who have been members of the royal household.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When there are big news stories breaking, Harry and Meghan, the Yorks, and people are very under stress, people do it because of the love for the institution often.
But also there's that curious relationship. I mean, it's often the case, isn't it, that the Queen and her relationship with Angela Kelly, which started out as she was a dresser, I think, wasn't she?
Yeah.
Or you get, knights of the theatre who have these very close relationship with their dressers too. People who have that relationship with their drivers sometimes. And these are important people with status in the world, but they spend a lot of time with those people. Falling in love with your bodyguard, that's another thing, isn't it? And all of a sudden the human desire for intimacy and closeness and to be
emotional
able to talk
support.
frankly. Yeah, exactly.
Connection.
Yeah.
And it is slightly odd, isn't it? Because you're paying these people, but they become closer than sometimes your friends.
And then you fire them.
That's all we have time for. Please join us next week, next Thursday, on Apple, Spotify and YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want to see us on 5, we're on the box on Saturday.
That's all from the podcast, which never complains, but always explains.
And if you would like to email a question, please do at royals@spirit-studios.com. See you next week.
See you.